Today I'm going to talk about the over 50 F word. Fear. Marie Forleo spends a little bit at the beginning of this chapter talking about fear and what it means and how it appears. And she tells her own personal story about getting back on a scooter after falling off. I have my own story, and it's fairly recent. Nobody knows this because, I shouldn't say nobody knows this. A handful of people. I count the number of people on one hand who know that I did this. I went to Atlanta from my home in Virginia to audition for The Voice. This was a huge stretch for me, and there was a lot of fear for me in auditioning for it. My music partner, Brian, and you can find more about us on Sally and Brian Music on YouTube if you want to go hear some of our stuff, was really encouraging me to go and audition for The Voice. And I had told him, well, I didn't think I had what it took, and Brian was absolutely determined that we should go. And my son had an opportunity to go visit his cousin in North Carolina, so we all three got in the car. We left George at home to take care of the dog, Charlie. You'll probably see him in the background sometimes. I don't know if he's there right now. He's on the floor. I got in the car with two friends. One is my son, one is my music partner, and off we went to Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, shit.
I don't need IDs, just fancy.
For me to audition for The Voice. It's been a great day. People are super nice. Some are nervous, some are excited. And everybody's here because I have a dream. And that's pretty inspiring. As we got closer to Atlanta, I could feel that fear just bubbling up. And I started thinking of all kinds of reasons to turn around, not take the trip in the first place, just to stay at my sister's once we got there. There was all this stuff for me, but Brian was so encouraging that I just felt like I'd be letting him down if I didn't do it. He was my bridge over that troubled water of fear. How you like that musical metaphor? We got to Atlanta. I got signed up. I waited in line for 5 hours. Actually, it was probably more than 5 hours. Went in, did my audition. I was fine. I was in a room of 10 people. We each auditioned with our piece of a cappella music in front of this person who took notes. At the end of it, I had to recognize that the experience was so worth having. Okay, so let me put it that way. The experience of doing it was so worth having. I did not make it out of the preliminaries. I did, however, go and do the thing. So now I know. You might think that that was a huge disappointment to me, and that the fact that I haven't talked to very many people about it actually says that maybe I was embarrassed or humiliated, but I wasn't. I actually am kind of proud of myself. And as I talked to the one or two people that I did talk to about it, they were so encouraging, and they said things to me like, wow, that I could not have had the courage to do that. But you can, if you care enough about the thing that you're doing. You can take all of that fear that feels like, the pit in your stomach and the butterflies and all this stuff that comes, the physical sensations, sweaty palms, all of the things that come along that make you think you are feeling fear. If you could reinterpret those and see those physical manifestations from a different perspective, they might also occur as excitement, which in this case, I think it was excitement. And I can look back and interpret it as fear, or I can interpret it as excitement. But it turned out to be such a great experience, and all the people around me, many of whom were just kids. I was probably one of the oldest people in the room auditioning. So a lot of the kids who were auditioning were so much more fearful than I was. And it made me think, maybe there's something to this thing that we do to ourselves that we could actually get over with a little bit of life experience. There's Charlie. Hello, buddy. Charlie is going to be 15 next month. The fact that he can still jump up in that chair. So in those few minutes that I was in the room with those 9 other people, waiting my turn to get up and sing my song, all of the things that pop into your head are things like, oh, I'm going to crack, I'm going to choke, I'm going to forget my lyrics, I'm going to look stupid, I'm going to sound bad, all of those things come into your head. And of course, I didn't do the song as well as I've done it in performance, but it didn't matter because I did the song great. I did a great job with the song, and several people in the room were very complimentary, and I did it. But once I got out of that room, we were done. I didn't die from the experience. I wasn't humiliated. Nobody made fun of me. There was none of the stuff that we fear, all of those weird little ideas we have about what that's going to look like if we don't succeed. My husband has a thing that he calls floating anxiety, and it's a fear with no place to land. You feel like something is going to go wrong, but you're not clear what it is or why or what it's related to. And we do that a lot, especially as we get older. We think about our kids in those ways. Once they're past our protection, we are thinking of ways that things can go wrong in their lives. Once we have amassed a certain amount of money in retirement, we think of all the ways that we can lose it. There are so many things we do to promote this idea of living from fear. But one of the things Marie Forleo says in the book is that fear is something that we can, in fact, embrace. She says, we're talking about fear that keeps us small and stuck. Fear is one of the most misunderstood F words. Left unexamined, it's a dream killer, a soul squelcher. I like those terms. The grand meister of mediocrity. If this were Family Feud and Steve Harvey asked what stops us humans from achieving our highest potential, survey says fear would take the top spot. So everyone feels afraid. Everyone deals with fear. Everyone has moments where they feel like they are too small to be able to succeed at the one thing they really want to do. And she actually gives us some very straightforward ways to manage that fear. In the chapter, there's a section titled, Fear is Not the Enemy. And that's where she gives us some really helpful hints. The saying is, fear is not the enemy, waiting to stop feeling afraid is. And that's where we get stuck. We get paralyzed by our fear. And it can be a very small fear that paralyzes us. It's crazy. But action, she says, is the antidote to fear. And she's absolutely right. If you have a fear about a thing that you might want to try, let's say one of the things that I want to try is putting a blue streak in my hair, which I'm not going to do right away, but you will see one eventually. But I really just need to make an appointment with a hair salon and go get it done, or go buy the blue color and do it myself. But there are things that are small fears that we think people will judge us if we do this thing. And there are bigger fears. We fear we might lose everything, or that our children will suffer, or that our business will fail. And those are the bigger fears. And she says doing the thing that overcomes whatever the fear is far easier than the terror we inflict upon ourselves by stressing over it in our heads. The fastest way out of our fear is through it. So there are all kinds of, that backseat Betty, she's in your head again, and she is the fearmonger of all fearmongers, because she's in your head telling you all kinds of things that you definitely don't need to hear. Some of those things are, you're way too old for that, or why can't you be grateful for what you have? Your time has passed. Just accept that. You have no clue how to start. You're not focused enough. You've got zero follow through. You'll wind up in massive debt. You can't afford this. On and on and on. And Backseat Betty is talking in our heads all the time, and her voice is full of fear-mongering. Those are the times when you just put your hand on Backseat Betty's face and push her into the back seat where she belongs. The title to Marie Forleo's book is Everything is Figureoutable, and that is a repeated theme throughout the book. And dealing with fear, of course, she uses that theme once again. Everything is figureoutable. But one of the things I noticed as I was reading it is that the fear that we feel, if we can push through it to do the thing that we want to do, but we're afraid to do, just like my experience with trying out for The Voice, fear can lead to a sense of aliveness. And for many of us, as we age, that sense of aliveness, it starts to dissipates somewhat, and we find ourselves sort of in this land of mediocrity because we've gotten to a point in our lives where we think we've done what we're here to do, and many of us just find ourselves sitting quietly thinking about the past. You can still get up and do things, and you can still get up and make a difference in the world if that's what you want. Now, if you want to meditate and read and garden, and that brings you the kind of joy that you're seeking, then you should do that too. So I don't want you to hear me saying, get up off of that couch and face your fear and go jump off of a bridge on a bungee cord. This is not at all where I'm going with this. What I'm saying is we all still have some things that we want to try. And fear is the one thing that seems to get in the way for many of us. And it could be something very small. The thing you want to try may be to take a class learning how to cook Asian food, or to go to a paint and sip event where you drink wine and paint a painting. There are so many things out there that would bring us a great deal of joy and that feeling of aliveness that we're seeking over 50 if we are willing to step through the fear and actually do the thing. Taking action is the antidote, I promise y'all. One of the exercises that Marie has you do is to write down your worst case scenario when thinking about what possibly could go wrong when you try the thing that you're afraid of. Like everything from if I want a blue streak in my hair could get totally fried and fall out, to if I want to invest in my business, I could lose everything and end up on the street homeless. So her goal is to get you thinking with clarity about what are the worst possible outcomes of walking through your fear and doing a thing that you're drawn to. And then once you're finished with that exercise, to really look at the exercise and do the flip side of the exercise, and that is to write down all of the possible outcomes, good outcomes that could happen as a result of you doing the thing that you want to do. It's just as possible to have the good outcome as it is to have the bad outcome, and to really put a plan in place to deal with the potential bad outcome and look forward to the potential for a good outcome. And just get through that fear. Know you have a plan in place. If everything falls apart, everything comes from together, then you still have a plan in place to claw your way back and get to the place where you can try again. In the exercise, she says, keep going until you get to the absolute worst thing you can possibly imagine. Then later on page 103, she says, once you've articulated your darkest fears and recovery plan on paper, flip your perspective. This time, write down the best case scenarios. What are all the possible upsides that could come from moving ahead? Will you reignite your joy and passion, learn and grow, live without a nagging sense of regret, positively impact others? Are there financial rewards, creative gains, relationship benefits, certain freedoms that may only come if you take a risk and say yes? Write these down too. Be as concrete and specific as possible. Shakespeare once said, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And what he's trying to say is pretty obvious. However you perceive the situation is how you interpret it. If you think something is bad, it's bad. If you think something is good, it's good. There's another saying that goes right along with that, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but the saying is, right you are if you think you are. So think about how you perceive situations. Is backseat Betty in charge? Is she the one doing the driving? Or are you sitting at the steering wheel driving your own life? Finally, toward the end of the chapter, Marie Forleo talks about why making light of these situations is good for us. She says, sometimes we need to stop taking ourselves so seriously. She suggests using a word like shushy in place of failure. A silly word like shushy breaks the trance of terror we put ourselves in and helps us lighten up. As Catelyn Stark in Game of Thrones so wisely said, laughter is poison to fear. There's one more thing that I want to bring up that I think is so valuable. I think I'm going to take it on and write it above my desk. Early in her life, someone gave her a saying, and the saying is this: I win or I learn, but I never lose. So the saying isn't win or lose. The saying is win or learn. And that speaks volumes if you think about it, because every failure we have is an opportunity to learn something about ourselves, something about the activity we pursued, something about failure, humiliation, pulling yourself back up. And that is so valuable, guys. If you can start to think about failure as a learning technique, losing is not losing. It's learning. Failure is necessary. In school, we've been trained away from valuing failure, and that is so wrong. I usually don't say something's right or wrong, good or bad, but in this case, I'm going to say training ourselves away from being able to fail is absolutely the worst thing that we have done in our education system. Because what we've done is we've told kids, if you fail, then you are bad. And so kids are unwilling to fail, which doesn't mean that they're only doing well. We know that's not true. What it means is they're unwilling to take the risks for higher learning, for greater understanding, for deeper dives. And you are no different from those kids. You and I have the chance here to look at every failure as a learning experience. So as Marie says, I win or I learn, but I never lose. Take it to heart, write it down, own it, put it in your wallet, on your bathroom mirror, above your desk, next to your bed, whatever you need to do to remind yourself that failing at something is not the horrible, humiliating, life-rottening experience that you think it might be. It's actually a way to show ourselves that we are willing to try, that we have greater things ahead. And once you retire, sometimes you start to think, well, that's it, I'm done. You're not done. You're not done. As a coach of mine used to say, you're not done until they start throwing dirt on your face, because then you're dead and you're done. She goes on to say at the end of the chapter, failure is just an event. It's not a characteristic. People can't be failures. So she has an insight to action challenge at the end of the book, and that has more to do with the worst case scenario and the best case scenario exercises. I invite you to go ahead and look at the book. I have a link to the book in my channel description and also in below this video. There's a link to be able to order this book on Amazon. It's an affiliate link. So yes, I do get a percentage of the sales, and that's cool for me. So, and it's not any more expensive for you. So go on Amazon, get yourself a copy of this book, follow along with me. I have a playlist that actually covers everything that we've done in this book through chapter 5, and I'll have more videos coming out as we go through the book until we are complete with Marie Forleo's book. Don't forget, I have 2 other books that I'm working on too, Designing Your Life and It's Never Too Late to Begin Again. And once we finish with those books, I'll probably take on another book. I'm looking at a couple different ones right now, but if you have some suggestions for a self-help book, especially one that is good for anyone over 50, then give me the suggestion in the comments below and I can start to look at some other possibilities and we can have our own study together. Remember though, it's always still a study of one. So I'm not going to tell you how to look at these books or think about yourself or how to study them. I'm just going to say, for me, I'll share what I'm doing with the books, and you feel free to share what you're doing. Please do subscribe. That definitely helps my channel, and it helps us build a community, and if you comment, I'll comment back, and we can get to know each other a little better. So thanks again for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back with another one in 2 or 3 days, and we'll learn some more stuff, y'all.